Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Committee of Adjustments. This is a meeting to consider applications for minor variance and consent held under the authority of the Planning Act of Ontario. The role of the committee is to review the proposals that are before it, consider the evidence provided, and make a decision based on the 4 tests established by the Planning Act. In order to conduct an effective and efficient hearing, we have adopted the following process. Tonight's meeting will be live streamed and available for future viewing on Town's live stream page, oakville.ca/live. People attending this committee meeting are to be courteous and respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and others in attendance. We ask that the cellular devices be switched off at this time as they do interfere with our audio system. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chair. All persons wishing to address the committee are required to provide their name and address. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided to all speakers. Any submissions beyond 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the chair. Any materials presented to the committee for viewing will remain the property of this committee. Persons seeking a deferral or withdrawal of an application will be invited to do so on the onset of the meeting. And if a request for a deferral is granted, it is the responsibility of the applicant to contact the Secretary-Treasurer regarding the scheduling of a new hearing date. At the request of the committee, the applicant may be asked to provide a brief presentation and answer any questions that may arise. If the applicant has any concerns with the recommendations and proposed conditions found within the staff report, this is the time to advise the committee. All persons who wish to support or oppose the application will then be given an opportunity to speak to the committee. In the interest of efficiency, groups sharing the same view are asked to select a spokesperson, and individual speakers are asked to not cover the same points as those who have already spoken. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to respond to comments made by an interested party and answer any additional questions from the committee. Discussion will then be closed and the matter taken into committee for a decision. Once the committee has made an oral decision, any person desiring a written copy must file with the Secretary-Treasurer a written request for notice of the decision. A green sheet is provided on the table at the back of the room for this purpose, and only those filing such a request will be given any subsequent notice of any appeal. Notice of the committee's decision will be mailed to the applicant and anyone who filed a written request no later than 10 days following the decision for a minor variance and 15 days for consent applications. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, you may appeal the decision to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the last date to appeal will be noted on the decision. If no appeal is received within the prescribed time frame, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding, and the applicant and anyone who has received a copy of the decision will then be notified by written correspondence. Thank you. We have one regret this evening, Mr. Hardcastle. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interests? I see none. Thank you. At this time, we'll take any requests for deferrals or withdrawal of applications. Does anyone wish to withdraw or defer their application before we move on with the first item of our agenda? Okay, I see none. With that said, the first application we have on our agenda is CAV 122 of 2019 at 171 Woodhaven Park Drive. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Joel Tanner with the Office of Simple Design Studio.
Good evening, Mr. Tanner. Who is here for application CAV 122 of 2019 at 171 Woodhaven Park? I see none. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, committee. We are here to seek a minor variance for lot coverage only. We are abiding by all of the regulations set out by the zoning bylaw. That would be front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, building height, and gross floor area. The only variance we are looking to achieve is in the lot coverage. Most of the lot coverage number is coming from the front covered patio and front second story projection, as well as the rear covered porch. Really, because of the location of the property, we are really trying to push outdoor living environment, and that's driving the size of that rear covered porch. So we are looking for that deviation from a minor variance standpoint. We did read through staff comments, and it looks as though they are in support of the proposal, and we have nothing to add unless there's any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Are there any questions of Mr. Tanner at this time, or any items of clarification? Very well. We've done our site visits. We're familiar with your application. If you have nothing further to add, we're ready to take the matter into committee.
Perfect.
Very well. Who would like to move more? Go ahead, Ms. Murray. Thank you.
Madam Chair, having conducted my site visit, reviewed the applicant's written submission as well as the town's written staff report, which I note the staff is in support of, having also taken into account that there are no written or oral objections from the public at this time. I am satisfied that the minor variance application meets all 4 tests under the Planning Act. I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the application for the variance, subject to the following conditions: that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the site plan and elevation drawings dated September 3rd, 2019, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction, and in cases where a building permit is not required, that the proposed scope of work has not been fully completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay. Application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, committee.
The next item on our agenda is CAV 123 of 2019 at 167 Tweesdale Crescent.
Good evening, Madam Chair
Good
and committee.
evening.
My name is Simon Hirsch. I represent the applicant, Simon Hirsch Designs, 220 Lakeshore Road, East, Oakville.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. Who's here for application CAV 123 of 2019 at 167 Tweedsdale Crescent? You are here in opposition or in support? Opposition. Very well. Mr. Hirsch, you are familiar with the report and that town staff is not in support of your application. So go ahead and take us through your application, and then we'll invite the neighbors to address the committee.
Yes, I just wanted to address some of the comments from planning in regards to the property being in keeping with the neighborhood and the surrounding areas. The design of the building allowed us to, we set back the garage substantially to minimize the impact on the road. This is the current design that's approved. This is the applied for design. We worked with the existing landscaping and trees, again, if you look at some other angles here, to minimize the impact on the road of the building. Again, this is now the proposal with the area over the garage. We also went through the neighborhood and sort of tried to compare to other buildings and structures in the neighborhood, other houses that have been permitted. And we sort of just went around the block immediately to see the different levels of impact that we've seen there. And if you look at some of the approved buildings in the area already, I think we've achieved quite a substantial, quite less impact on the street than some of these other buildings, which basically are completely exposed to the street with a solid facade. Double car garages brought right to the front yard setback on all these buildings. This is the immediate street, the block surrounding Sandwell Drive and Tweedsdale. So again, all the garages are brought forward. This continues basically on all the new builds, every single one in the area. So we can just keep going like this. Going back to what we've proposed, again, compared to these different sites, we do feel we've managed to minimize the impact of the house and keep it set back. This is the current approved design again, and this is our proposal with the addition over the garage. From certain angles, you actually can't even see the garage, and all the landscape buffer has been kept in place. That concludes what I want to say.
you showed are now the property of the committee. If you can just leave them on the side, then the secretary
Absolutely.
treasurer will collect them.
At the end.
Just right here?
Yeah, in
Yep,
case we need to
perfect.
show them again. Thank you. Would you like to address the committee? Your names and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Sean and Michelle Taggart from 155 Sandwell Drive.
155?
Yeah. So our property is directly beside, perpendicular to the property. And so we're not so concerned with the view from the road because our entire backyard backs onto the property, pretty much in the middle of their property. And so we're facing the garage. And we went from having a very private backyard. Already the wood structure is in place. And so we went from having a very private backyard to now seeing a very large wooden structure, which obviously will become the house. The variance that they're asking for to put the room above the garage will actually just make that substantially worse. There were trees along the entire back lot. They ripped out half of them. Perhaps there's an intention to replace them. I hope that there is. I actually did send an email to Simon's office, but never received a response just to understand what was happening because we never received any written communication at all about what was happening until we received this variance submission. So the trees have been half pulled out. We're looking at a very large wooden structure. The application is to add to that, and in essence, we'll be facing a very large brick wall that is within, I don't know the exact measurements, but it's very close to the fence. I'm sure it's within whatever the limits are, but it's substantially close to the fence, and we have a pool that backs on to the fence right there. So it just completely has, we believe, reduced our property value already, and so we would not support the variance application to add to that. Do you have anything to add?
No, not. We do have pictures on here. I don't know if we can.
We do have sort of
show
before
you.
and after pictures on the iPad, but we didn't print them out, so I'm not sure if that's possible.
On record
Okay.
later, or else we may.
Perfect.
Our previous chairman used to confiscate the technology. I didn't do that.
Yeah,
He tried anyways.
Yeah.
okay. That's everything.
So did you want to show the pictures of the before and after?
How do I do that?
You see where that blue mat is? If you put whatever you have there, we'll be able to see it on the screen.
Thank you.
Oh, if I just turn it upside down?
Yeah. Let me just, yeah, exactly. Just lay it flat. No,
No,
facing up.
Facing up.
See that blue mat? Yeah,
Oh, it goes
right there.
Perfect.
Now
Got it.
you can,
Yeah, there.
Got it.
perfect.
Yeah.
So that would be a before, and you can see, so the fence behind the pool, that was the views. Obviously, there was a bungalow there before that was very small, and had those trees remained, actually, the view would not be that obstructed. The bushes are quite high, and then this is what we're looking at currently.
I see.
So you can see that half of the shrubs have been pulled out. It's hard to tell, but the garage is sort of in front of where you see the white, and so the recommendation to add the second floor above that would just be completely hanging over top of our yard.
Yeah, in the wind, yeah. So those are the two pictures?
Yeah.
Okay, if you'd be kind enough to just email them
Yep.
to the secretary treasurer, that would be great.
Okay.
And that was helpful, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Are there any questions of Mr. and Mrs. Taggart before they leave the podium? I see none. Okay, thank you for your submission.
Thank you.
Mr. Hirsch, floor is yours now. Sure. So if you care to comment on the submissions of the neighbors, and then I believe the committee members may have questions for you.
Definitely, thank you. To the Taggarts, I do apologize, Sean, I didn't get a message about your email. We normally would get back to you right away, and as far as the trees being removed, there definitely will be plans to replant those trees, so that wouldn't be the issue. I did want to comment that I don't think the height impact of the addition affects that view that we saw there. It is directly above the garage, and I guess the height of the building is already there. As far as other comments, what is already there is permitted and permitted to be there as per the bylaws. So the existing situation is going to stay regardless, but definitely the homeowners have said that they plan to put the required planting back in to create a good buffer there.
Okay. Ms. Murray had a question for you.
Yes, I do have a question on the second floor plan page. Can you show us where the windows are going to go?
Sure.
On
Can
that
I just get
addition
the
above
set
the
of plans so
garage?
I can point them out on here?
Yes, please.
So this is the, oh, sorry. This is the proposed area for the addition over the garage. So there was one window proposed right here. The exact configuration of these bedrooms, these kids' bedrooms, wasn't determined yet. And the other windows is one on the front here facing the road, and then one on the back facing the backyard.
Thank you.
Any further questions or items of clarification?
I'm done.
I see none. Okay. If
Thank
you're
you.
satisfied, this will mark the end of your time, and we will take this matter into committee.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to start the discussion? Excuse me. Go ahead, Mr. Tulowski. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm going to have to agree with staff and the residents on this application. It's a very imposing two-story, I'm going to call it a two-story box with a proposal to add another two-story box to it. It would be 800 square feet greater than the bylaw itself would permit, and I see absolutely no attempt in the design to try to mask the impact on neighboring properties or to just mask the additional massing that's being applied for. I cannot find that to be appropriate or the size to be in keeping with the general intent of the bylaws. So, Madam Chair, I'm going to recommend this application be denied.
Thank you, Mr. Tulowski. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Very well. All those in support? Okay. The application has been denied. The next item on our agenda is CAV 124 of 2019 at 1510 Oak Hill Drive.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Joris Kieran, Kieran Design in Oakville, 11 Bronte Road, Unit 31.
Good evening, Mr. Kieran. Who is here for application CV 124 of 2019 at 1510 Oak Hill Drive? Okay, I see none. Go ahead, sir. We are familiar with the application, and this is your time.
I have nothing further to add beyond comments provided by staff. They are in support, as you know, and I'm happy to answer any questions or offer clarification if needed.
Very well. Are there any questions of Mr. Kieran at this time or items of clarification? I see none. Okay. If you're satisfied, we're happy to take this into committee.
Yes, please.
Okay. Who would like to move motion? Go ahead, Mr. Flemington, thank you.
Madam Chair, having conducted my site visits and having reviewed the applicant's written submission, as well as the town's written staff report, which I note is in support of, and also having taken into the accounts of the applicant presented this evening, noting that there are no written or oral objections with regards to the comments from the public. I am prepared to make a motion in support of the application as applied for, noting that the following conditions be included: that the dwelling be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated September 4th, 2019, and also including the standard condition with regards to expiring within 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued.
Thank you, Mr. Flemington. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Some paperwork from the previous.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Application CEV 125 of 2019 at 126 Chartwell Road. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Secretary Treasurer. My name is Richard Mann. I'm the architect for the owners at 126 Chartwell Road. The application before you today, I live at 153 Woodhaven Park Drive in Oakville.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mann. Who is here for application CAV 125 of 2019 at 126 Chartwell Road? Are you in opposition or in support? You're in support. You're the owners. Oh, okay. No, that's fine. Is there anyone here who is an interested party in the application? Okay, I see none. Go ahead, Mr. Mann. You are aware that town staff is not supporting several of your variances, and we do have a couple of letters of opposition, so we'll...
I do believe they are in opposition.
Oh,
They
I didn't
are.
see your hand
Yes,
go up. I
I do believe
apologize.
there
Thank
is,
you
yeah.
for pointing
You're
that
welcome.
out. Okay, we'll give you a chance to address the committee once Mr. Mann has taken us through his presentation. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Mann.
Thank you. The application before you today is requesting 7 variances. I will begin with, I've read the staff report and the opposition from a couple of the neighbors. We agree with the staff report, but would also like to address the one issue on the rooftop terrace where staff did not support that. So I'd like to start with variances number 3 and 4. Those relate to driveway width, garage size, and garage entrance. They're all intertwined. The intent of in the design is to create a 4-car garage. We are locating the garage around to the right of the house, so that would be sort of around this location, creating a carport around the side, facing the north side property line. It's a 4-car garage that has been split.
Just
So-
one second. I think we lost our monitors. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
It's a 4-car garage. It's been split into a series of 3 cars and then a single car at the front. And the intent is for this to have a side-facing orientation to the north side yard line. The minimum setback for a garage setback from a side lot line is 7 meters. We're set back 13.35 meters. The intent in the design is to break the massing of the garage down by introducing a single-story roof line above it. The second-story roof line is set back to mitigate the mass of the garage in that location. I'll just show you right here. on the north elevation. So the mass of the garage is broken down and it's tucked in around from the front of the house, so it's not creating any visual street presence. Variance number 5 is relating to dwelling depth. The variance that we're requesting is 20.39 meters. The bylaw allows 20 meters. The 29.39 meters is made up of a front porch, which projects 1.86 meters. The second floor mass of the house, or the main body of the house, is 19.84 meters. And the rear of the house has a single-story component that's 6.12 meters. So we would post that the massing of the house is within the 20 meters. The extensions to the 20 meters that make up the 29 meters are made up of single-story additions, one a covered porch to the front, and the second, the single-story addition at the rear. Variance number 6 is requesting a front yard setback of 61 meters, where 61.17, where 63.33 is required. It's a unique shaped lot, as you can see, sort of a T shape, if you will. And this dotted line here, this dashed line here, this curved line here, denotes the required setback. So you can see the component of the house that we're proposing, the front porch and the existing front face of the house. Those are the elements that project past the required minimum front yard setback. The setback difference that we're requesting from the bylaw is 2.16 meters. The front porch is 1.86 meters. So that basically means the main house is 0.3 of a meter in front of the minimum required setback. The reasons that we're requesting the setback are twofold. One is to allow for space for the pool. The existing pool is in this location. We'll be rebuilding it and putting a new pool to the west side. And the second one is there's a magnificent oak, red oak, in this particular location here. And we're going to have to do some kind of structural foundation work to try and save that oak. So we're trying to push the house as close as we can without pushing it all the way over into this area over here. So it's a difficult site to align the property. We also wanted to make sure that, the argument is, could you push the house this way to save the oak? Well, then the front door no longer faces down the sort of small sliver of front yard that we have. So the idea was to try and at least get some kind of orientation down the front there. The variance number 7 is for the building height. The reason we require the building height is twofold. One, obviously, is you're creating a roof over a structure, so that is determined by the size of the structure and the slope of the roof. And the second one is that the existing grade for this house in the rear is 2.52 meters above the established grade in the front of the property. So that already puts us at a disadvantage. So the numbers may say 13.69 over 9, which is a difference of 4.69 meters. But the reality is we are requesting a variance to the typical 9-meter height, but that variance is really closer to 11.43 meters. That's the reality of the height of the roof that we're trying to propose there. And that additional 2.43 meters of roof line is all created within hip-style roofs. So we're not presenting any two-story massing to the front of the house, to the sides of the house. It's all hip roofs that slope away. So the additional height would sort of kind of cut somewhere along this level above this peak. That's the extra height that we're requesting. And there's the 3D of the front. We don't have any two-story gables. The actual top of our proposed roof is 1.2 meters, 1.27 meters above the height of the existing house that's actually there. And the existing house has 2 main gables that face front and back. The last 2 variances are for the rooftop terrace. And ordinarily, I understand staff's opposition to rooftop terraces and balconies, and ordinarily and normally, I would recommend to my clients not to apply for them in a position where, there is an overlook condition. But I do feel that it's worthy of a discussion here, and I'll sort of outline why. In this particular property, I've got the two here. So this particular property is a unique property in Oakville. It's large. All of the setbacks that we've tried to maintain in this property well exceed what generally you would find as a setback to adjacent properties. And then the other mitigating factor with this rooftop balcony is that it does not face any of the properties to the north because it's hidden by the roof lines. Slide this over here. So it's hidden by the roof lines to the north and this roof line to the south and sort of the southeast. No one will see it. The visual impact that the balcony may have will be predominantly to the west, which is New Central Public School, which is over this side here. It'll overlook, the balcony at this point will overlook the single-story section of house here and will overlook New Central Public School. The only residential properties that it may have, again, and this is a matter of interpretation, it may have some impact on, would be the two properties, Lot 42 and Lot 43. And I would pose to you that the rooftop terrace here is set back 53 meters from the lot line to where the terrace starts, and an additional at least 10.5 meters as that's the rear yard setback to the other houses. And in addition to that, we're maintaining the existing tree canopies in this spot. We're maintaining the existing trees in this spot. So that adds an additional level of buffering to the neighboring properties. So that's the reason that I would argue that in this particular instance, I believe that rooftop terrace, potentially it's arguable that it does not infringe on the neighboring properties and therefore does meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. In conclusion, this lot has three main elements that are driving its design. It's an unusually shaped lot, so it's difficult to site. We're trying to preserve as many trees as possible. That's another factor in the location of the building. The grade differential from the front yard to the rear yard, which sets the height of the house, has created an issue with the height. But in the context of the neighborhood and the relationship of what we're proposing to the size of the lot, this lot can support a house of 17,000 square feet. We're proposing a house that's 5,800 square feet. So the relationship of that, the relationship of the extensive setbacks provided to the neighboring properties, the intent to maintain as much of the existing vegetation and landscaping as possible, we do believe that the variances are minor in nature.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Are there any questions or items of clarification, Mr. Mann, at this time? Okay. We'll have the neighbor address the committee. Sir, would you like to address the committee? We do have two letters of opposition. I believe you sent in one of them?
Yes.
Okay. Your name and address for the record, please?
Okay, my name is Michael Cater. I'm here with my wife, Barbara Cater, and we live on 134 Chartwell Road. I don't know how to, now it comes
Yes.
on. Yeah, here. And you can see that denoted by the green color there. That's our terrace facing the other house at 126, which is supposed to be built. I have two comments. We object to a minimum front yard of 16.17 meters as opposed to what is allowed by the bylaw. This is on number 6, because it would push the planned house intolerably close to our house facade facing west. And this alone would be causing us a great loss of privacy. We have a ground level terrace shown in our picture here, with the green area that you can see there, which is immediately encumbered because it is used from spring well into the fall, as Michael Cater works there. Michael is a retired history professor, constantly doing research for books to be published, the reading for which is done in a deck chair on the terrace, climate permitting. The terrace is also used by Barbara Cater and during visits from family and friends. It is thus an integral part of the house. Next to the terrace is a stretch of lawn, and I have sent you pictures, which I believe you have, 3 of them, where Barbara spends much time as an avid gardener. There's a rose bed, which I've charted, and the entire area would suffer from the closeness of a gigantic facade with multiple windows, the new house facing us from the west, if the structure is moved as close as the application suggests. Further, the new house encroaches on the window area of our family room and kitchen, family room cum kitchen, next to the terrace on its north side, and the living room next to that, both facing west. Please look at the site plan. It's about here and there. Number 7, we object to the changes proposed here. The impression of hugeness is amplified by the proposed maximum height of the house of 13.69 meters as opposed to the allowable 9 meters. One could stand anywhere on the territory of our house, shown in the pictures 1 to 3, which I've sent you, and be totally overwhelmed by that towering structure. That problem is compounded by the fact that the new house will be standing elevated on something like a hill. It's not really a hill, but it would be elevated. Thank you. We're actually asking the committee to relegate the plan to the original specifications as outlined under 6 and 7. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayter. Is there any questions or items of clarification? I see none. Thank you for your submission, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mann?
Thank you, members of the committee. In response to the objections by the neighbors, it's, as I mentioned in my presentation before, the net effect of the physical mass of the house from the required minimum setback is 1 foot from the line that the required minimum setback provides, and we're 1 foot in front of that with the 2-story mass of the proposed dwelling. The front covered porch then projects an additional 1.86, and that's part of why the number is what it is. That the two what's the number there? Front yard setback of 2.16 meters. So I would argue the net effect of the actual physical presence of the building is really only a foot closer than what's allowed. And again, part of the reasoning there is, not to reiterate, but part of the reasoning there is to allow for the placement of the pool and to protect the red oak as best we can in that position. The other comment I would, again, and it's one of those ones where you deal with many different sites all throughout the town, and you deal with the zoning bylaw that has set certain setbacks to allow separation distances between houses. I would point out, because this is an unusual lot, that we still are creating a setback distance of 17 meters in this spot here from the lot line to where the house is, 16 meters in this point, 15.08 meters to the corner of the porch at that point, whereas the neighboring property is only set back 9 meters from their house. This is a larger house, but it is also on a larger lot, and we have tried to place it in such a way that it is as less impact as we can, taking all factors into consideration. With respects to the height, again, it's a matter of perception in the numbers as well. We are dealing with a raised grade at the back, and we are asking for some additional roof height to that. that makes the number more. And again, that's part of that reasoning is for a house of this value, in this kind of location, having a roof, a large two-story house with a roof line that's half cut off, architecturally is not desirable, and that's my opinion. I see it all around town where the roof lines are all cut off on some of the houses, and the architecture suffers because of it. And in this case, the way to mitigate that is to make the roof slope up and away from the neighboring properties and from the perimeter of the house, so that you're not giving a two-story imposing facade. That's the full height that you're requesting.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Are there any questions or items of clarification? Mr. Talowski, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mann, I just want to pick up on the roof comments, because
Yep.
I'm struggling with the height here
Okay.
as well. So I understand that the difference from established grade is, I'll call it a technical variance, but you're measuring from the north side of the property. The south side of the property, the grade's actually lower, so
Correct.
half of the house is even sticking out from a visual perspective more out of the ground on the south side than it is the north side.
It is, yeah. There's approximately 5 or 6 steps off the terrace there, yeah.
So the south side's gonna be even more opposing than the north side, and you're in a situation here where you're kind of in everybody's backyard, just
Right.
from the nature of this lot. So there's the technical aspect, but it really only applies to half the house. The visual on the other half is, only a 1 meter difference in grade as opposed to the 2 meters. But then you're adding another 6 feet on top of it.
Right. So,
And it's just all in the sake of architectural design, but is that a justifiable reason to, impose over all these neighboring yards?
So again, the question there is, for instance, taking this picture into account from, an architectural perspective, I appreciate the comments, and I also, this is something that we also, as we were going through it, struggled with, where do we stop it? I mean, obviously, this roof line could go up to a peak. That's natural and ease of construction is to take all the roof lines up to a peak. That is architecturally the best way to do it. The bare minimum we could go would be to sort of, and I'm sort of sliding this across here, would be sort of to take this ridge line here, which is over the 2 wings on either side, and cut the roof off at that point. So we could flatten it at that area there. And that's why I put the one dimension of 0.95 of a meter there. So architecturally, we could cut it to there. But anything further than that, again, is then creating the same kind of roof line that we see everywhere, that, you have this 2-story house, and then you have about 8 feet of roof, and it's got a short, it has a short facade to it, and, it does not look architecturally pleasing. Whereas this, because of the way that the roof slopes, I would pose to you that it is not creating the sort of overlook condition, because it's set back within. By the time you get to that point, that's set back well within the body of the house. And the roof line actually slopes up and away from you. So visually, when you're standing there looking at it, you're not looking at a flat facade. And so, I mean, back to your question, if there was an opportunity to offer some roof height back that we could cut without sort of affecting the architecture too much, again, that would be this 0.95 of a meter, which would cut across at that ridge line without then drastically affecting the rest of the ridge lines or changing the roof slope. And if the committee feels that that is an appropriate concession to reduce it by an additional 0.95 of a meter, then that's something that we would consider.
Thank you.
Ms. Murray, you had a question?
Through you, Madam Chair, to town staff. To the best of the town staff's knowledge, are there any other balconies within the neighborhood?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't believe there is through our assessment and review of other applications that have been submitted in the area. They're all within the Suffolk zone, so they wouldn't be permitted. The rooftop terraces are not permitted. The wording isn't as strong in terms of the bylaw language, but through an assessment, I did not see any.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Mr. Mann, if you're satisfied, we'll take the matter into committee now.
Okay, thank you.
Who would like to start the discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Murray, thank you.
I'll move a motion at this point in time, that the application be denied based on town staff's report, that variances 1 and 2 are not acceptable at this time to the city. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, is there a discussion on this application, this recommendation? Mr. Talowski, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is difficult. I don't think this can be approved as it stands. I'm not sure it's worthy of denial. It's a dilemma that it's a very unique lot. It's also a very large lot, so you can look at it from 2 different perspectives. You shouldn't need all these variances to build a house on a lot this big, but it does have its unique characteristics that provide challenges and opportunities. I agree with staff. You can't, or I can't support the rooftop terrace. This isn't a balcony like we're used to dealing with. This is a large outdoor entertaining space overlooking the schoolyard, and I'm just really struggling with the roof height because it's in so many backyards. And well, Mr. Mann, I agree with you. If I'm standing beside the house, I'm not seeing that roof, but because of all the houses set around it from a distance, I'm going to see the full height. Madam Chair, I'm probably going to go halfway in between. I don't think I'm going to support the motion on the table, and if it doesn't pass, I may come back, or I will come back with a motion to defer. I think there's been a good discussion between the committee and neighbors and the applicant that maybe they deserve a chance to tweak a few things and get it right.
Okay, so the motion on, Mr. Flemington, did you want to say something?
Sorry, just repeat the motion, because
Okay, so the,
because of the items 1 and 2.
yeah,
So is there a reason for that she's moving a motion to deny?
yes, she's moving a motion to deny and not supporting these variances.
Okay.
Did you want?
Entire application.
Yeah, no,
Yes, 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 it's the entire application.
Okay.
Did you want to make a comment?
Well, sure. I mean, I'm not in support of the motion. I do agree with the town's report with regards to items 1 and 2. And also hearing, sort of looking at the height and hearing the applicant saying that, you know, there is a way of reducing the height. Would that be enough? I'm not sure. So I just think that the height is something that should be dealt with. Hearing my colleague to my right's comments, you know, I'm not going to support this motion, and then I as well would support a deferral.
Very well. So the motion is to deny the application. All those in support of that motion, that would be Ms. Murray, Okay, and all those opposed, that'll be the three of us. Okay, so that motion has failed. Now, Mr. Talowski, you mentioned a motion for deferral. I too was swayed by Mr. Mann's presentation. At face value, these are too many variances, but given the logic and the thought that's been put in to this design, I'm inclined to agree with you that a deferral is a more prudent way of approaching it. So can I take it as a motion for you to defer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to make it clear before I do that, just from my personal perspective, my concerns are the outdoor terrace and the height, not the other variances. So, Madam Chair, I will move that this application be deferred, and again, from my personal perspective, my expectation would be that when it comes back, we're not going to see a rooftop terrace, and we're going to see a significant effort made to deal with the height issue.
Okay, is there a discussion on this recommendation? I feel like we have already, but I have to open the floor just in case. Go ahead, Ms. Murray.
So point of clarification to the committee, the cost of the deferral is borne where?
It will be with the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the motion now is to defer the application, and all those in support? Okay, yeah, all those against? Okay, Ms. Murray. So, Mr. Mann, this is, you've heard us loud and clear. You'll have some opportunity to work with staff and the neighbors and come back with a more acceptable proposal, I guess.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, the next item on our agenda is CAV 126 at 2032 Lakeshore Road West. Good evening.
Good evening, Arlene Beaumont, Outred & Associates. We are the agents for the owners of this property. We're here today to request a variance for oversized garage.
Ms. Beaumont, right? Mm-hmm. Correct. Just allow me a moment to canvass the room. Who is here for application CV 126 of 2019 at 2032 Lakeshore Road West? I see none. Okay. This time is yours. We do have one letter of opposition regarding the garage that was received. There's two? Sorry. Okay, two. I apologize. So the time is yours.
Thank you. This is the main floor plan, and it best shows the garage configuration. So we have a double car garage here, and then the third door, which is setback, leads to a tandem double. And that gives us a garage that's slightly under 100 square meters. As per the comments from planning staff, they've noted that this setback does help to disguise the third door, and of course the tandem means that it's not visually a prominent garage. It doesn't appear to be as large as it is. Further, there are several properties in the neighborhood that do have oversized triple car garages, so it is not out of character for this section of Lakeshore.
Are there any items of clarifications or questions of Ms. Beaumont at this time? Ms. Murray, go ahead.
You noted in the staff report the comments with regards to the circular. As an applicant, would you be willing to forego that?
Yes, I've spoken to the applicant, or to the owner, actually to their architect, and yes, they will redesign the driveway to not be a circular driveway, to be perhaps a hammerhead type of driveway, but not circular. We will reduce the amount of paved surface here.
Certainly, upon my site inspection, I noticed they have a hammerhead right now.
I'm sorry? I didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. Upon my site inspection, I note that they have a hammerhead currently.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So the recommendation from staff with one of the conditions is that the removal of the circular driveway.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any further items of clarification or questions? I see none. Okay, if you're satisfied, we're ready to move this matter into committee.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Who would like to move a motion? Mr. Flemington, go ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, having conducted my site visits and having reviewed the applicant's written submission, also having listened to the oral presentation this evening, noting that there were 2 letters of opposition, I am going to move that this application be approved with the following conditions. That the site plan and elevations dated July 15th, 2019 be modified to remove the circular driveway to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning Services. And our standard condition that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Flemington. Is there a discussion on these recommendations? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. Thank you. Okay, application CEV 127 of 2019 for 2467 and 2477 Old Bronte Road. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Coutinho. I am with Corsic Urban Planning, 277 Lakeshore Road East, Suite 206.
Sorry, can you repeat your last name again?
Wayne Coutinho.
Coutinho, okay. Mr. Coutinho, give me a moment to canvass the room. Who's here for application CEV 127 of 2019 for 2477 Old Bronte Road? Okay, are you in support or in opposition? In support. You're in support, okay. Are you the owner? Oh, you are, okay. Anyone here who's not the owner, who's interested in this application? I see none. Okay, Mr. Coutinho, go ahead. We're familiar with your application. We've done our site visit. This time is yours. Are there any items of clarification or questions of Mr. Coutinho at this time? I see none. Go ahead, sir.
I've read through the staff report and we agree with the comments and conditions. As such, if requested, I can make a brief presentation.
Okay, very well. Members, do you want a presentation? Okay, I see none. So if there's nothing further to add on your part, and there are no items of clarification that we need, we're happy to take this matter into committee.
Thank you.
Okay. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Murray. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, having conducted my site visit, reviewed the applicant's written submission, as well as the town's written staff staff report, which I note that the staff is in support of, and having also taken into account the comments presented by the applicant this evening, I'm satisfied that the minor variance application meets all 4 tests of the Planning Act. I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the application for variance subject to the following conditions: that the mixed-use building be constructed in accordance with the final approved site plan to the satisfaction of Director of Planning Services, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction, and in cases where a building permit is not required, that the proposed scope of work has not been fully completed.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Murray. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. Thank you. All right, application CEV 128 of 2019 at 166 Forsyth Street. Good
Good
evening.
evening, Madam Chair, Committee. My name is Curtis Van Kulen. I'm from Hughes Design Studio, the applicant on the project.
Sorry, can you repeat your last name again?
Sure. Van Kulen.
Van Kulen. Okay, thank you. Mr. Van Kulen, allow me a moment to canvass the room. Who's here for application CEV 128 of 2019 at 166 Forsyth Street? I see not, yes, you are here?
I'm friends with the owners, I'm just observing.
Just observing. Okay, so you don't desire to speak to the committee. Very well, thank you. This is an application to permit a new detached garage, correct? We do have letters of support. I note 3. And if you have nothing further to add, are there any items of clarification or questions of Mr. Van Kulen at this time? I see none. If you're satisfied with the staff's report and you have nothing further to add, we're happy to take this matter into committee. The floor is yours.
Yeah, we've reviewed the staff report. We agree with all the conditions. If there's a need, I can make a presentation.
Very well. Okay, well, there's no need. Who would like to move a motion? Mr. Talowski, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, pleased to move that this application be approved as applied for, finding it meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. This is, again, really a technical variance, and I find there'd be no impact by the proposal. I would make that approval subject to the garage being constructed in general accordance with the drawings dated September 3rd, 2019, and that variance expires if a building permit is not issued within 2 years. And I'd also note the letters of support from the community.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Toski. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Application CAV 129 of 2019 at 1447 Pembroke Drive. Good evening.
Hello, Madam Chair, committee members.
Good evening.
My name is Lenning Jalisi of Lenning Jalisi Design. Our office is located at 270 Sherman Avenue North in Hamilton, Unit OF 269.
Thank you, Mr. Angelisi. Who is here for application CAV 129 of 2019 at 1447 Pembroke Drive? Okay, you are?
Your neighbor, 1503 Pembroke.
And you are in support or in opposition? You're in support. Okay, are you going to address the committee or you're just here to observe? Perfect, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Angelisi, the floor is yours. We're familiar with the application for this new development.
Yes.
And we have town staff and support.
Yep, we're only going for a single variance. This lot, as with all the lots on this side of the road, are subject to a unique condition in that there's a ravine. So they're subject to a top of bank condition.
Yes.
Although that number that may seem high that we're going for with an increased RFA of roughly 12.27%, we do comply with, say the RFA was taken over the entire lot. We comply with the coverage as well, right? So it's because of this top of bank condition that we have to apply for this variance.
Very well, thank you for your clarification. Are there any items of clarification or questions of Mr. Angelisi at this time? I see none. If you're satisfied with the conditions that town staff have put in their report, we can take this matter into committee right now.
Yes.
Okay. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Murray, thank you.
Madam Chair, having conducted my site visit, reviewed the applicant's written submission as well as the town's written staff report, of which I note is in support of this application. Also having taken into account the comments presented by the applicant and noting that the neighbors have kindly attended to and approve, you are in support of this application. Sorry?
They have to speak. For me to be able to put them in support, they're going to have to come give their name and address.
Okay. Would you kindly come down? It's just a matter of keeping records.
I just came on the decision, there was support, and they did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Ross Daneshvar. I'm the new owner of the 1503 Pembroke. Just a few houses.
Kindly spell your last name.
Daneshvar is Daneshvar.
And your address?
1503, 1503. Pembroke Drive.
Pembroke, yeah. Thank you kindly.
No problem.
Go ahead, Mr. Ray.
Thank you. So just to wrap up, thank you for sharing that with us and sharing your comments. I'm satisfied that the minor variance application meets all 4 tests under the Planning Act. I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the application for the variance, subject to the following conditions: that the dwelling be built in general accordance with the submitted site plan dated August 30th and elevations dated September 12th, 2019. And that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction, and in cases where a building permit is not required, that the proposed scope of work has not been fully completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Application CAV 112 of 2019, deferred from September the 10th, at 135 Speyside Drive.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Jennifer Parker of Carruthers and Associates from Hamilton.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Who is here for application CAV 112 of 2019 at 135 Speyside Drive? Okay, I see none. All right. You were deferred from September 10th for the proposed addition to the second story of this development.
That's correct. After that deferral, we immediately met with Brandon Hassan in the Planning Department to discuss revisions to the proposal. In having discussions with him, we met in person, discussed the set of plans. We reduced the overall size of the addition. We removed several windows on the side elevation to address overlook concerns, as well as eliminating the proposed second-story balcony from the addition. In doing all of that, we were able to obtain positive staff comments.
Yes, and we have letters of support from your neighbors now. There's 8 of them on record, so that's fruit of your labor. Are there any items of clarification or questions of Ms. Parker at this time? Ms. Parker, we're familiar with the application. We're ready to take it into committee if you are satisfied with the comments and the conditions that town staff have suggested.
Yes, thanks.
Very well. Mr. Flemington, go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to the applicant for making the revisions. I know there was 3 of them that have had a positive impact. And I just want to note that I had conducted my site visit and reviewed the application as revised. Also noting that there are 8 letters of support for this application as it has been revised. I want to move a motion in support of the application as applied for in this revision, with the condition that the addition be built in general accordance with the revised site plan and elevation drawings dated September 18th, 2019, and also our standard condition that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued.
Thank you, Mr. Flemington. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? The application has been approved. Thank you, Ms. Parker.
Thank you.
Our last item on our agenda tonight is application CAV 114 of 2019 at 210 Gloucester Avenue. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. It's John Wilmot, architect and agent for the owners.
Thank you, Ms. Wilmot. Mr. Wilmot, just one moment. Who is here for application CV 114 of 2019 at 210 Gloucester Avenue? Oh, you're just an observer. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Wilmot. We have a deferral on this new construction.
Yes, so if you'd like me to do a more detailed presentation, I'd do so, but the reason for the deferral was it was discovered that there is a technical variance required, and so we deferred the application previously, and we've sorted it out with town planning staff and have their support.
Very well. Thank you for that clarification. Are there any questions of Mr. Wilmot at this time or items of clarification? I see none. So if you're satisfied, we'll take the matter into committee.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead. Mr. Talowski, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'll move the application be approved as applied for, finding it meets the four tests of the Planning Act. I think the design here has been considerate of the neighbors and placed the extra coverage in the appropriate places. I don't find any impact coming from this design. I would note that there was no objections from the neighborhood. And I'd make that approval subject to development proceeding in accordance with the drawings dated September 11th, 2019, and that building permit issue within 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Rutowski. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
We have minutes to confirm from September the 24th. Who would like to move the minutes? Mr. Flemington moves the minutes. Who motion to adjourn? Ms. Murray at 8:10.